Everyone, welcome back to the Pair Program. Tim Winkler here with Mike Gruen. Mike, we were kind of chatting a little bit earlier about some vacation plans on my docket, but I was curious what you got lined up, or is it going to be a dry summer for you?
It's going to be a dry summer.
Oh no! Is it kids related? Is it the kids?
No, I mean, so
camps.
So both of my sons are in Boy Scouts, BSA. They rebranded. And so they have some scouting things going on over the summer. And so we're mostly low key. We're thinking maybe a weekend here or a weekend trip there, but no big summer plans because they have big summer plans. My wife and one of my youngest just got back from the Florida Keys where they did a whole snorkeling, like high adventure thing. It sounded awesome. And then,
Oh, good for her.
Yeah, exactly. It was work. They were like camping on an island. Like she was like, it was fun, but it was hard. So, and then both of them have a big long week in Goshen, Virginia.
Cool. So. All right. Well, I will.
Sorry
be thinking about when I'm out in the Outer Banks.
Exactly. Enjoy the Outer Banks. You stopping off anywhere else on the way there?
Yeah, we're doing a Busch Gardens stop off out in Williamsburg. So, for those that have listened to the last few episodes, I've got a 18-month-old daughter, so this will be her first time, jumping onto some of the the teacups. I don't know what these the kids at that age can ride, but I'm pretty sure she's going to be an adventure seeker. So looking forward to getting her out to an amusement park.
Awesome.
Cool. All right. Well,
I just came back from Greece, so.
Oh, dang! Wow. You just trumped everybody on the call.
But if you'd asked me for the past 3 years, I've done nothing.
Where'd you go? What islands did you hit up?
We went to we started in Athens, which was not that great. It's all dirty and graffiti filled, and with 50,000 other people at the Parthenon. That was the highlight. Anyway, and then we flew to Mykonos, which is sort of a party island. And we weren't that crazy about that one. And then Naxos was probably our favorite, which is, a less developed island. And we went hiking and stuff there in the middle of it.
Very cool.
And the last one was Santorini, which is probably the most beautiful, beaches and sunsets and all that.
Absolutely. Yeah, we did Athens, Mykonos, and Santorini. I think those are that's going to be the most frequented destinations. But did you take the ferry? I take it then just to get out there.
The ferries in between the islands. Yep.
Nice. Very cool. Well, now we got to ask Harsha, anything that you can trump a Greece trip with? Or?
Of course, the Virginia Beach always trumps everything else.
All right. Now I know. I know. I guess I have a sense of humor.
I have two daughters, and both of them love the beach. So we spent the 4th of July long weekend at the beach. It was fun.
Yeah, Virginia Beach is a great area, not far as well. So, we'll have to say that it doesn't quite trump the Greece trip, but we'll give you credit for at least getting away. Better than Mike's lazy summer.
I would say it's subjective, but I will give it to Larry.
All right, let's jump in.
He has a lot more money as a result of my trip to Virginia Beach.
Let's jump into today's episode. So again, this is going to be one of those episodes where we get to mash up a startup founder with one of their customer partners and talk through how a solution is delivered. Specifically, we'll be focusing in on the healthcare space for this use case. We'll learn a little bit more about some interesting technology being built to help streamline clinical trials. So today we have Harsha Rajasimha, the founder and CEO of Jeeva Clinical Trials, and Professor Larry Cheskin, professor at George Mason University's College of Public Health with a focus in nutrition. So Harsha, Larry, thank you both for joining us on the Pair program.
Thank you for having us.
Excellent. So before we dive in, we do kick things off with a fun segment called Pair Me Up. Here's where we all go around the room. We spitball a complimentary pairing of our choice. Mike, you lead us off. What do you got for us today?
So mine is kids and pets. I grew up with a lot of pets. And we have my family has cats and a turtle. And I was talking earlier today with a coworker about like getting a dog. And I said, oh, my kids are older and I sort of wish we'd gotten a dog when they were younger because I like dogs. I like all animals. There's people ask me all the time, like, am I a cat person, dog person? They're different. I like both. But I do like dogs a lot. Anyway, so kids and pets. That's where we go.
Kids and pets. Yeah, I think that's a great parent. I know as a kid, it was like a constant harassment of my parents. It's like, get a dog. So, but you had to lead up to that. So we had like multiple hamsters, all kind of suffered tragic deaths somehow as a kid that couldn't keep a hamster alive. They were able to
if they die, let's get you an upgrade.
Let's just get a dog. Yeah, it was a family dog. The hamster was mine, but yeah, kids and pets, I dig it.
Yep.
I'm gonna jump in real quick and go with road trips and car washes. So again, we're going on vacation into this week, and getting the car kind of just tidied up beforehand, making sure you have a comfortable space to sit in for whatever it is, 6-7 hours is always something that we do before any road trip. So car washes and road trips. Also, they'll do a little bit of like if you do it at a spot that's got like a little mechanic, they'll do a little check on some of the essentials, make sure you're good to go with tires and everything else. But that's my pairing for the day, and let's pass it over to the guests. So why don't we start with you, Harsha? Quick intro and your pairing.
Great. Hi, this is Harsha Rajasimha, founder of Jeeva Clinical Trials. My background is I'm a computer science engineer turned genomics data scientist. We are currently on a mission to modernize clinical research with human-centric software and CRO solutions, headquartered here in Northern Virginia. From a pairing point of view, I guess a lot of kids and plants, no animals, as I grew up in a vegetarian household, and also not really pets that are not plants. So,
so
plants as the pets.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Okay.
Flowering plants, some vegetables, and stuff that can go into the edible side of the kitchen.
Nice. Yeah, that's a first. That's a first on the show. Larry, how about yourself? Quick intro and your pairing.
Well, I'm Larry Cheskin. I'm a physician by training, and I'm professor of nutrition at the School of Public Health at George Mason University, and I also work now as an adjunct professor at Johns Hopkins. And I see patients, and I do a lot of weight control. And weight is a big issue in the United States and around the world. And the pairing, I guess I can talk about, not to be repetitive, and they're not exactly pets, but my wife and I rescue farm animals at our farm gentleman farm in Ellicott City, Maryland. And we've got everything from horses and mules, ponies, goats, sheep, and pigs. So, and we had a chicken right in the house in our kitchen an hour ago because it had what's called a bumblefoot, which is like a bleb that they develop on their feet, and then they can't walk real good. And my wife was trying to do minor surgery on the bumblefoot to get it to go down a little.
Interesting.
Let's have polar opposite pairings here between our guests. Larry's got chicken.
We don't eat our animals. We're
I know. I was just gonna say it sounded like my house until you got to
vegetarian.
Right. That's funny.
That's cool. Yeah, Mike, you were just saying that you were.
Yeah, I grew up with lots of farm animals. The difference is some of them we ate. And we definitely did not have pigs, but we did have the goats and horses and stuff like that. So that's always cool.
Very cool.
I think this is also the first episode we've had no alcohol mentioned as a pairing.
No alcohol or foods brought in. Yeah. Nice. First of a kind. Exactly. Awesome. All right. Well,
otherwise, it's a great show.
Welcome, folks. Again, thanks for joining us. And let's go ahead and transition into the heart of the episode. So, as I mentioned, we're going to be talking to a tech startup founder, Harsha, to hear more about this health tech company, Jeeva Clinical Trials, how they're working with a customer partner, and breaking down, how this strategic partnership came to be. First and foremost, I do want to expand on the story and the impact of Jeeva Clinical Trials. So I'll start with you, Harsha. What inspired you to start this company, and what problems are you solving?
Yeah, so great question, Tim. Coming out of NIH and FDA as a postdoctoral scientist and being part of multiple startups, so I always had the startup bug in me to change the world. But how exactly to change? Where is the unmet need? Where can I help people? Was a question as I was going through early part of my career more as a data scientist. And as I stumbled upon my own personal experience of becoming a dad to 3 kids, and one of the kids born in 2012 had a rare genetic disease, and who we lost the same year. And so that inspired me to think more in terms of what these rare genetic diseases are, what type of diseases. And good news was I was kind of professionally already involved in the genomics and precision medicine area, coming from NIH and FDA. But experiencing the loss of a child is something that really inspired me to think what can be done about diseases like that. And there is much hope for some of those diseases, but not all diseases can be treated or cured. But certainly diagnosis was a big challenge. And so I spent several years working for a startup leading their clinical genomic test that can diagnose thousands of diseases in a single exome sequencing test. And then coming out of that, moving into therapeutic development, consulting for big pharma while I was working for Dell Services, Entity Data Services over the years, firsthand looked at how inefficient the process of bringing new treatments through the regulatory process was. 1 in 10 drugs make it through the valley of death. 9 out of 10 drugs fail. And it takes 9 years to 12 years on an average, going from first in human studies through the regulatory review and approval process. Very inefficient, very expensive. Average cost had exceeded $2.5 billion to get one drug to market. And as I looked at that problem, there's just massive IT infrastructure that goes into executing one clinical trial at a big global pharma. And there's a lot of early stage biotech companies where innovation is happening for, say, cell and gene therapy or novel modalities that don't have the resources that big pharma have. And they have to execute these studies, identifying and stitching together 20, 30 different software tools, laboratories, and samples, and a lot of workflows that all have to happen in quite a complex workflow to make one clinical trial successful. So I thought there was huge opportunity and an unmet need to, one, getting early diagnosis and then getting them through clinical research. And also only 1 or 2% of the American population are actually being accessing the clinical research enterprise, while 99% of the people are still not engaged in the clinical research process. Of course, during the pandemic, suddenly, everyone heard about clinical trials, about the vaccine, and it was the silver lining, as they say, of raising mass awareness at the population scale about clinical research and how they can be life-saving. And so that's led to, it's a year before the pandemic is when I founded Jeeva, to essentially bring efficiency and human-centric approach to executing clinical research. And that was the inspiration. Along the way, I also had a younger brother who was suffering from diabetes and the complications of that who was in his early 30s, lost his life as a result of the complications coming out of diabetic retinopathy and nephropathy and other complications. So both these family members inspired me, but the entrepreneurial bug was already there. So I just got the direction to see where I could make a difference.
Well, it's an inspiring story, and I'm sorry to hear about the loss. As a parent that also has, as a person that lost both of their parents to cancer, can relate to the motivation to want to figure out solutions to problems. One of which my mom, she was diagnosed with multiple myeloma. And, it was still a fairly, early stage kind of cancer that hasn't been a ton of research done on. So we had an entry point into getting into some of these trials. And I could tell you that this would have been in 2016. And it was a very frustrating experience. There just wasn't a clean entry point to understand what the options were, what were the results from other patients. And so, when I discovered what you were building, I had a personal interest in wanting to hear more, and also just, grateful that there's folks like yourself, entrepreneurs like yourself out there that are, pushing the needle forward to solve some of these problems, because it's truly a problem. And it's one that, when lives are on the line, it's how quickly can we move to expedite things. So
absolutely.
Appreciate.
It's one of those things where it's one of the most complex human endeavors that are undertaken in getting one drug through the regulatory process, and multiple stakeholders have to do their jobs in a very coherent, consistent, collaborative manner. And what's surprising me is, even today, 90% of clinical trials are conducted on 10% of the world's population. 90% of the world is not engaged in clinical research at all, to a great extent. And so I think there is huge opportunity to take clinical research to the patient's homes, and enabling remote patient engagement and involvement in clinical research. After all, they are the people who are being helped by these pharma companies in developing drugs and digital therapeutics and novel modalities. So that's a mission that I think willing to put in whatever best I can.
Yeah, and I want a couple of quick hits on Jeeva, and then we'll jump over to Larry here in a second. What's the size of the company from a headcount perspective? Have you received any funding to this point? Is it been venture capital grants? Tell us a little bit about the specifics of the company.
Absolutely. So we are a Delaware corporation headquartered in Virginia. Received various grants from the Virginia Commonwealth Governor's Commercialization Fund, as well as investments from the Virginia Venture Partners. So we are a portfolio of that. And as a Hokie and affiliate faculty at George Mason, I have not had any trouble attracting talent, seeking internships and full-time opportunities and so on. So we are a team of about 15 people, and an advisory board, board of directors, and several investors who are all rooting for us and supporting in our mission. So we are at a seed stage, and we are just out starting to raise a Series A round.
Okay. Excellent. Yeah, and at the end of this, we'll have a little bit more of a few questions to plug, the types of roles that you're hiring for as well. But before we dive a little bit deeper into what Jeeva's doing at a more granular level, let's pass it over to Larry real quick. Larry, how tell us a little bit about your background, and then how did you and Harsha kind of cross paths?
Yes, so I've been in medicine, since I was not quite a teenager, but soon thereafter. And I've always been very interested in research, and not so much laboratory research, working with mice and cells, but in working with people. So that's called clinical trials or clinical research. And this is where you're often taking things that were originally done as research in animals and cells and applying them to humans. So it's often a big leap because things that work in cells or animals don't necessarily work in humans. So it's necessary to do things in a very rigorous, organized fashion. And the kind of gold standard is what's called a randomized controlled trial. So I've been involved in doing these sorts of studies. And an RCT for short, randomized controlled trial, is randomized. That means that it's very important because very often we're influenced by what we think is going to happen. And many people have heard of the placebo effect. So if I give you a pill and say, Mike, this is going to change your life, you may laugh, but it will probably change your life a little bit, even if it turns out it's a pill that does nothing. It's a sugar pill. And when you give people medicines, for instance, and that's one of the main treatments that we use in healthcare, you have to know whether the effect is greater than if I gave you a sugar pill, because the sugar pill is going to do something for many people. So you randomize people to whether they're going to get the sugar pill or the active drug that you're testing. And that is a controlled setting, and you don't let the person know what they're getting. And it's called double blinded. It's not just the patient that doesn't know what they're getting, but it's the person giving out the drug that doesn't know what they're giving. So it's double blind. And the only one that's going to know is as you're analyzing the final data, you have to eventually look at who got what to know whether the people who got the active drug did any better than the people who got the placebo drug. So a randomized controlled trial is called the gold standard of testing things, because any other method of testing a treatment, you're always concerned about, well, did it really do the effect because of the treatment, or was it because you're paying attention to people and you're giving them care, and that's going to make them somewhat better? Unless they've been run over by a truck, attention is going to be useful, even in things that you think of as not being all that treatable, like cancer. Giving people attention and caring has a positive benefit. Anyway, so what's also important is that we understand the triggers and the things that increase our risk of getting things like cancer that was mentioned earlier. And being in a nutrition department and treating people with obesity, I'm convinced that nutrition is a very important factor in our health and our future health and well-being. So one of the things we wanted to do was study not the people that are usually studied. So in healthcare, you study people who already have cancer and you see what treatment works in them. And that's clearly very important. But in some ways, even more important is to understand who's at risk and what you can do to reduce people's risk of becoming a patient down the road. So we wanted to do a study not of older people with diseases already, but of young people before they got diseases. And George Mason undergraduates seemed like a really good group to study because they're very diverse. It's a very diverse university. It kind of mirrors the United States and to some extent the world. So, very often when studies were done in past years, it was restricted to middle class, upper middle class, white guys, because those are the people who are running the studies and those are the people they tended to recruit. and the results were applicable to middle-class white guys. And yet you want it to be applicable to a broader range of people. And we've learned over the years that middle-class white guys are not necessarily representative of, what other populations like women and minorities and people of different, ethnic origins are going to be at risk for and experience. So George Mason undergrads, the perfect mirror of the United States. And we wanted to know what they do, what they eat, what their physical activity is, what their mental health is, what their attitudes are, and follow them throughout their time at George Mason as undergraduates for 4 years at least, and see how that evolved. And it so happened that we started this around the time Harsha was starting Jeeva, and it was right before the pandemic. And so our first, it's called a cohort, the year. The freshmen in 2019 are the first group that we studied, the first cohort. And that was before the pandemic. So we have data on a bunch of young adults, and we limited it to, we didn't want the people returning to college at age 50. We wanted the people, who recently graduated from high school and were starting college because they were the ones who were, in essence, the cleanest, the purest in terms of understanding what diet and other health behaviors are going to do. All right, I'm going on far longer than you wanted me to, probably. But we turn to Harsha to help us with organizing and making that kind of study happen.
Yeah, interesting study. Also, a nice shout out to George Mason. I'm a alumni as well, so love to see the university continuing to grow.
The IRB has just given us permission to ask alumni to fill out
participate.
See what happens, when you're out of the cloistered environment of a university.
I'll connect with you after the pod. We'll see. We'll see if I can submit my data. All right. So now I think we've painted a good picture of how, you all kind of came into connection. Now I'd like to just talk a little bit more about, how has the Jeeva Clinical Trials technology help streamline a study like this? Where were there gaps along the way within some of this clinical research that your technology is solving those pain points, Harsha?
Yeah, great question, Tim. When I was getting started, we had a team from Mason. We went out to what is called the NSF I-Core program. After graduating the Mason's ICAP program, the Innovation Commercialization Acceleration Program, which essentially encourages you to get out of the building, go talk to customers, and figure out what their pain points are before you build anything, right? And to even make a decision whether there is a need for unmet need in the industry that you are trying to fill. If not, most companies fail because they build something nobody wants or nobody cares about. And we didn't want to fall into the trap, and we are thankful for having met Bob Smith and Josh Green at the GMU ICAP, who got us oriented in this passion very early on. And that did a whole lot of good. So when we started speaking with Larry, we learned the various existing tools. And so the randomized controlled clinical trials, like Larry said, have been running since 1950s. And so it's nothing new, although the electronic and digital aspects are more recent. From the early 2000s is when the FDA guidance of 21 CFR Part 11 and the electronic signatures and data capture came into being. So there was a lot of existing tools for electronic data, but not so much also resulting in silos and point solutions. Some for managing the clinical study as a project, some for managing just the data part of it entered by the clinical researchers, some for patient engagement. And soon after, 2019 was the pandemic. And so suddenly we were in a new norm, or in a state of confusion for a period of time before we got to a new norm. And so that resulted in a lot of remote engagement type technologies and tools that came about very rapidly in a very short period of time. And so we realized, as we were starting to build out the tech in 2019 and 2020, that informed consent is the divine contract between the researchers and the patients. And we needed to ensure continuity of clinical research during the pandemic. We needed a way to obtain electronic signatures and informed consent remotely beyond what a DocuSign would do. It's not just the signature, but did the subjects actually understand what they are getting into, the risk and benefit, and can we verify comprehension? So we designed a human-centric informed consenting platform that could scale, and then ability to collect the patient-reported outcomes data directly from the patients on text messages, email, questionnaires, and surveys with complex branching logic and skip logic. So when we spoke with Larry, they were already using existing tools, one for managing the study, one for doing the questionnaires and surveys. They had a rather 90-minute questionnaire and a 60-minute questionnaire with 900 questions, with depending on male, female, and other questions, they would answer specific set of group of questions that were unique to them. And so needed a very robust platform. So what was exciting for us was to really address these inefficiencies. We had to bring everything in one login, in one centralized unified platform. And so while we started building point solutions in the beginning, it soon became apparent that we needed to bring these point solutions in a unified platform, which we did over the last 5-6 years. But when we started working and collaborating with Larry, the opportunity was really to save time for the clinical researchers and avoiding having to log into 3 different places. They only had to have a single login and into a single tool where all the data was in one place.
Yeah, so it sounds to me like the pandemic kind of fueled a lot of this, because everything was kind of going a bit more online at that time, anyways. But having a unified platform to where the ease of getting folks to get on board, to get their information uploaded is half the battle, I think, in a lot of these studies, right? And so getting that out and presented seems like a great use case. So that was your what was the kind of like, I guess, the first iteration of this is Larry's and the George Mason study one of the earlier ones that you all have done, or is this something that you've been iterating on over number of years at this point?
Absolutely, it's been a work in progress, iterating. We are on a journey to really effect the randomized controlled clinical trials in phase 1, phase 2, phase 3, ultimately leading to a submission to the regulators like FDA for review and marketing approvals. And so to really get to that phase 3, which are the largest sample size or largest clinical trials before approval. And of course, phase 4 post-market studies can also be much larger. And there are observational studies like the one that Larry mentioned, where we are not really giving any using drugs or interventions, but rather measuring what's going on, the behavior, lifestyle, food, nutrition, and so on. So these observational studies are low risk, where we are gathering data, analyzing data, and understanding from a scientific curiosity and drawing correlations and insights, clinical insights and health insights, which is really a gold mine of data that can be used to answer a variety of different questions. But ultimately, this is the starting point where we validated our platform in an academic research setting, then leading towards building the more randomization and electronic data capture as per FDA guidance, leading to more regulated clinical trials in early phases, phase 1, phase 2. So that's where the company is today. And we are working our way eventually towards those larger phase 3 trials leading to regulatory submissions. And so that's basically the baby steps needed to get through in this regulated environment.
That's cool. One of the things I think about like with startups a lot is focus, and not like sort of not having that sort of focus. Because as you're talking about your platform and what it's capable of doing, right? As an outsider, I can't help but like think, oh, I see applicability here and I see applicability there and I see applicability there. And if you have like the wrong people involved, I feel like it's very easy for a company to sort of lose its path. And I'm curious, like, have you found that to be the case? Have you been like razor focused and not had to like really deal with that? Or like, have you guys, like, it sounds like that's the case, that you guys have been pretty laser focused on what you want to achieve. But I'm curious, like, have you experienced those like, oh, maybe we should pivot into this, or maybe we could help in that space?
Absolutely, we have had to go through some pivots as the industry has been moving rapidly since the pandemic. An otherwise slow adopter of technology, life science industry.
Wait, they're a slow adopter?
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Sorry,
sarcasm cued.
Yeah, in healthcare, it said that while hundreds and thousands of new applications and digital tech is being developed and thrown and marketed every day, the actual part of delivering care between a doctor and a patient, that's seldom changing, right? I mean, it is changing a little bit relative to how much tech is being talked about and new tools being developed. And so the other thing that I was thinking about when Larry was speaking about the importance of nutrition in obesity and others, there is an old adage in ancestral Indian families that says essentially to the effect that those who understand how to speak will never have battles or fights, and those who understand how to eat will never have disease. And so that's how important knowing what to eat, how much to eat, and when to eat, and all that. It's an art and science, and it's kind of ancestral wisdom that kind of gets passed on, and it gets lost in the mix as to why we do what we do and all that. But where I was going with this is essentially the clinical research industry has been moving as we have been developing, and so we had to pivot. And what we realized is, if we have to stay in the academic observational clinical studies space, that's one thing. But our vision is really to help speed up therapy development process, life-saving treatments for rare genetic cancer and other severe diseases, where the requirements are much more stringent and the bar is higher from a regulatory point of view. And so we have been continuously innovating and adjusting to the new guidelines that came out during the pandemic. Many of those guidances have remained, some of them have gone. And even though regulators are encouraging more remote patient engagement, the industry has not necessarily embraced it as much after the pandemic went away. Some have gone back to the old way of doing things, but we are somewhere in a hybrid steady state now. And so we had to adapt to this hybrid mode of running clinical studies and build, as the platform evolved, we took those into consideration in pivoting. Another thing we learned is that just throwing tech at the problem is not the solution. We need to bring tech with people who are trained to use the tech in a compliant way, along with standard operating procedures and the quality management, which is so critical in the space. And so people, process, technology all in together to offer either a software solution or software plus CRO solution, or a contract research organization, where it's a turnkey solution where we can take on a protocol and help execute the full study. And that's where we are now collaborating with Larry and Mason in ways in which we can bring additional clinical research and trials into the Commonwealth for testing medical devices or drugs and other products where necessarily we don't need a hospital system, right? A clinic is sufficient in many instances, especially for low risk type products. So we're super excited about the pivots we had to make and doing them at the right time. And also just being part of this DMV investor ecosystem, we got early guidance coming down. Hey guys, you may want to cut some cost and stay put. The market is not looking great when the recession came about in 2022 and so on. So we had to take certain corrective measures at the right in a timely fashion as well.
I'm just curious from a business development perspective, Harsha. How do you put together that plan to get your technology in the hands of for example, this is in a university kind of setting. How are you prioritizing your target market? What does that target market look like, and then how do you get that technology injected in?
Yeah, great question. Our ideal customer is really clinical stage biopharmaceutical, nutraceutical, medical device companies that are getting through their early clinical studies. And academic medical centers and professors can be important collaborators for us in teaming up with our software solution and the CRO solution. As ultimately, it's the clinical researchers who can guide what endpoints need to be measured and how we can demonstrate safety, efficacy of a product, right? Whether it's a drug or a device. And so that's how we approach it, is with the mindset that we need to sell to clinical stage, early stage biopharmaceutical sponsors and collaborate with academic clinical researchers to make this all work well with our human-centric, efficient software platform.
Yeah, and I, just kind of scanning your background in the past as well. Then you spent some time at NIH. I guess throughout your career, some of those, previous relationships, how have those played into, helping you advance this company? If it's through partnerships, through funding, what have you? I always like to see that journey and then pick apart, how this stop here helped you in this current position of being an entrepreneur.
Yeah, no, great question, and rightly so. Right from my elementary school friends all the way through my last job where I held at Entity Data, I think everywhere I had several people who have played an important role in my journey already. Whether as one of the 25 investors who have put their money into the company, or making warm introductions and connections, or simply providing their time, offering an hour of time talking to people who are involved in clinical research. From Virginia Tech, when I went to grad school there from 2001 to 7, the School of Medicine was not yet established, but it later got established. And so there is Carilion Clinic and VT SOM now. So I had the opportunity to go back to my alma mater and participate in the RAMP Regional Acceleration Program there in the Roanoke-Blacksburg Technology Corridor, which further took me more from where NSF ICOR left us into further validating the value product market fit, and so on. So I think from everywhere from elementary school till now, I've had numerous touch points. My wife has invested in the company, as well as several people that I have spoken with who have helped in many different ways. Even on LinkedIn, every day I am amazed at how people I have never met, even till date, are coming forth with a generous spirit of support and mission. Parents affected by rare diseases, appreciating how we are supporting NF1 clinical trials. We just made a pledge today that we are going to make our software platform available to all NF1 clinical trials, which means there's only one patient in the FDA-regulated clinical trial it's an ultra rare disease. There is no other patient affected by the disease, and the regulators are going to make it possible for them to try a new therapy, like an antisense oligotherapy or some novel therapy on one patient. And for how much budget would there be for a one patient clinical trial?
Right.
And right. So to support these families, we have made the software platform fully available at no cost to them.
Wow, that's wonderful. And so, it's an area that we dive deep into on the podcast. Actually, we've been talking a bit about it more into settings like within the government, like defense tech, right? This kind of changing of the guard where there's it's known that they can't keep up at the speed of some of the commercial technology that's out there. How do we take commercial technology, inject it into more regulated industries like defense? Healthcare is obviously a fantastic example of this as well. And it sounds like Jeeva Clinical Trials is really hitting a sweet spot in a very specific area to move innovation forward.
Yeah, absolutely. We have a SBIR proposal due with NIH fast track proposal. The Virginia Venture Partners have a phase 0 grant from VIPC to submit these phase 1, phase 2 SBIRs. And inspired by the study at Mason, we are actually proposing several state and local governments to create a database of all citizens in, say, the Commonwealth of Virginia. If we can gather all the data and centralize that and make that available for biomedical research, that can be a gold mine of data, especially over a period of 5, 10, 15 years. Can we create a repository like that, right? And then make it available to the biotech industry to analyze, draw insights from AI and machine learning to identify what subset of patients would need what, like even healthy, aging, disease, right? As people are naturally get diagnosed with new conditions. And there are similar programs from NIH, the All of Us Research Program, or the Million Veterans Program of the VA, and others. So I think there's a lot of opportunity here to essentially take clinical research to every household.
Before we kind of close on the main topic and transition to our final segment, any final words from you, Larry, in terms of the partnership, the experience you've had, and where you see the future of this type of partnership between Jeeva and George Mason?
I think one of the major benefits to partners with Jeeva is that it frees up researchers and scientists and clinicians from the sort of, and you've all heard about, increasingly practitioners spend more and more time, filling out paperwork and dotting the I's and crossing the T's and justifying, what their decisions are. And the sort of services and platform that Jeeva provides enables me to focus on what, is maybe the highest use of my effort, which is to create new knowledge and hopefully advance the fields that I'm working in.
Yeah, well said. Mike, did you have something? I didn't know if you were going to.
No, I was just thinking about how much, like when you have the nice thing about startups, right? They're usually very responsive to the needs of a customer or a client, especially an early adopter, that type of stuff. And if you can get that right partnership, it's amazing what the two can sort of achieve together. And just, what Larry was talking about sort of rang true with my experience as well. And so that's probably what you picked up on was, because I think that's a great thing, right? When you want to focus on delivering your service and you want to find someone, you want to offload that and working with a startup. If you were to try and find like a big, large company or big, whatever, things get missed and they're not really in it necessarily for the same reasons. There's not that alignment of purpose. So it's always awesome to see.
Yeah, so I love this format because you kind of hear it firsthand. So that's cool.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. It's been a valuable collaboration with Larry in getting guidance as we were building out early on as well. And over the years, helped us mature and build all the right features to save researchers anywhere from 30% to 70% of their time and effort and burden involved in operational and logistical part of clinical research, so they can actually focus more on science and medicine. And that's been our motto right from the beginning, is to save time and speed up the process, drive efficiency.
Yeah, it's also just a great entry point, right? I think, having that case study under your belt and then building on that and expanding into XYZ universities along the East Coast, I think there's a lot of opportunity there for a startup to really get their technology in the hands of users that at scale, which is usually a large struggle to begin with.
It's an exciting time, Tim. With a lot of the AI investments going in the drug discovery space, there is more candidate drugs being predicted by AI than the ability to test them in clinical trials. And so, efficient AI-driven software platforms for clinical trial is going to be super critical to get through the next wave of drug candidates and novel therapies. So we are excited to be where we are, especially in the Commonwealth of Virginia, where we have a coordinated clinical research network with 14 hospitals across the Commonwealth connected. So I'm excited about our collaboration with Mason and the VCCRN to attract more clinical trials to this region as well.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, DMV is just a hotbed for health tech, and have so many large government organizations here too to kind of help aid with some of that. So a good location to build a health tech startup. We've got a couple of upcoming episodes specifically around like navigating the compliance maze in health tech, and then the future of AI in healthcare as well. So this will be a good kind of kickoff to, a short mini series and some of our healthcare episodes. Excellent. Well, I do want to make sure that we save enough time here for the final segment, which is the 5-second scramble. So this is going to be just a fun segment where we do a little bit of a rapid fire Q&A. We'll ask a little bit of business, a little bit of personal. Mike, why don't you lead us off with Larry, and then I'll get to Harsha.
Sounds good. All right. And also, the questions will be different, so don't take notes. So Larry, what's like one piece of advice you'd give founders of health tech startups looking for or working with clinical researchers or people like yourself?
I guess I would tell them to listen because, most startups have a product and a way of doing things. And, the best advice I can give is to, make sure that you're being responsive to the needs of the client.
Awesome. What do you think is the biggest challenge facing college students in 2024, aside from like debt?
The biggest challenge facing college students is the changing economy and the changing skill set that you need to function in that economy. So, when I graduated from college, you majored in a field, you studied up, you learned it, and you went into a job where you were in a place and you had a boss and you showed up every day. And now there's virtual work. There is AI that can potentially replace or supplement much of what you're doing. And you need to really understand what the new landscape is like and adapt.
Yeah, if you are in the junior or senior year this year, then you have a very difficult choice of whom to vote in the presidential election as well.
Yeah, that's a challenge.
What's the biggest challenge facing college educators in 2024?
I would say that working with a very diverse group of students who have had all sorts of experiences and all sorts of inclinations can be very challenging and exciting at the same time.
Awesome.
George Mason is a perfect example of the diversity factor.
Don't doubt it. What's the best piece of advice you've ever been given?
Follow your instincts.
What's a book you think every entrepreneur should read?
I don't know. I've never read any entrepreneurial books.
Awesome. I love it. That's a great answer.
Great question, Mike.
What was that?
Great question, Mike.
Yeah, you know.
Ask Harsha that one.
I mean, you never know. They can't all be winners. All right. So what was your favorite cereal as a kid?
Cheerios. I like the name. I like the taste. And I learned recently it's got some oat fiber.
You do anything with them or just plain with milk?
I just play with them in the milk.
I used to at least put some sugar on there when I was little.
I wasn't allowed to.
What's the largest land animal you think you could take in a street fight?
I think probably a sheep would be pushing it. We've got a bunch of sheep on our farm, and they like to headbutt.
Yeah.
So if you're alert, though, and you see it coming, you can probably defeat them. But if you turn your back, you're in deep trouble.
Nice. What's one piece of outdated technology you can't live without?
I don't use my protractor anymore or my slide rule. Outdated.
That you just can't
I
live
still
without.
have a VCR.
All right.
And I've got a whole collection of tapes. I don't play them that often, but I don't want to get part with them.
There you go. Nice.
That's a great answer.
That is actually, my son and I were just talking about, he was asking if we had a VCR. I can't remember why. And I was like, no, we don't.
Yeah,
Probably
we've got one just to watch old family videos, old holiday gatherings and
that's
such.
cool.
Yep. But I did get rid of the Betamax some years ago.
Oh, nice. Good for you.
You guys don't even know what that is, probably.
My family's one of the first ones. We had a Beta, and then we went to VHS. I'm older than I look. And my dad's in TV. What's a charity or corporate philanthropy that's near and dear to you?
The Burley Manor Animal Sanctuary. Not that I have any vested interest in this, but www.burleymanorretreat.org. That's our farm.
Yes, I picked up on it. Awesome. Last question. If you could live in any fictional universe, which one would you choose?
This is going to date me also, but the Jetsons.
Nice.
One of my favorite shows when I was a young kid.
Really good. Any particular reason?
Because I always liked science fiction and flying around.
Nice. Yeah, where's my flying car?
Yeah. I was going to say Star Trek could have been another one after our intro call.
Yeah, maybe.
Yes.
All right.
Thank you much.
Good stuff. All right, Harsha, you ready?
Yes.
All right. Describe the culture at Jeeva Clinical Trials.
So we have a culture of get it done and do it right. Right. And essentially that's what helped us in saving time, being efficient ourselves internally, because we are trying in the business of helping clinical researchers be more efficient. And we got to achieve a lot with very little resources in-house. And so just getting it done is not enough, but doing it right in terms of using less of other people's time and other resources. That's, I would say, one of the 5 parts of our culture, but that's the 80% of the culture as well.
Yeah, that's cool. What kind of technologist thrives at Jeeva?
Someone who thinks, who comes with ideas and understanding of the specific problems we are trying to solve, and who aligns with the mission of the organization. We are not just another tech company out there to build a Me Too solution. We are here to change the world. And so someone who comes with that mindset, who has motivations and that align with our mission to make a difference, I think, irrespective of whether it's technologist or business development or clinical researcher, manager, any role, that's very key is mission alignment.
Speaking of the roles, what kind of tech roles are you hiring for?
Data scientist and AI ML will be top for next 12 to 18 months as we have several grant proposals that we are waiting on, and also raising capital to hire and essentially make, now that we have most of the necessary software modules built out in the unified platform, the next step is really to drive efficiency and automation and build capitalizing on the data, as we now have over 10,000 users on the platform.
Wow.
To now look at AI, ML to optimize the workflows.
Very cool. Describe your morning routine.
I wake up usually around 7 a.m. and get ready for my 8 a.m. call. And before that, I try to do some push-ups and some mild workout to get some blood flowing. And I start usually with my product team in the morning. I keep 8 a.m. to 10 a.m. block for product and technology thinking time with the team sometimes, and without the team on my own. But 10 a.m. onwards is my sales and business development time with customers. But the morning is product.
What about breakfast? Is you're a breakfast guy? No breakfast?
It depends on my wife. If because I come down, I go straight into my meetings, and most of the time my wife, if she's home, she brings me breakfast, and so
yeah.
I close my camera and grab a quick.
This sounds like an entrepreneur right there.
Yes.
Oh yeah. What's an area of tech that you are most excited to see impact the healthcare industry in the next 5 years?
Yeah. So I think AR, VR, especially in remote patient engagement, given core to our mission of taking clinical research to patients' homes, engaging patients remotely involves that augmented reality, virtual reality, can make a big difference in not making them feel like they are not physically present in the ambience and in the place that they are imagining, like a clinic or a hospital or whatever that is. So I think that coupled with the tech we have already built and continuing to innovate, I think AR, VR could be a useful add-on to us.
Cool. What is your favorite app on your phone?
LinkedIn.
Nice. What's a charity or corporate philanthropy that's near and dear to you?
A philanthropic organization that I founded about 6 years ago, the Indo-US Organization for Rare Diseases, which a mission to bridge collaborations among various stakeholders of rare disease research and patient advocates between United States and Indian subcontinent. Essentially, it's near and dear to me at various levels. One, it's personal because of my connection to rare disease, and two, it's personal because of my connection to my biological motherland and adopted motherland, bringing all together, and my professional career. So it's pretty much like all in, and so that's my favorite charitable organization.
Cool. Yeah, we'll plug that in the show notes as well when the episode's released. If you could have dinner with any celebrity, past or present, who would it be with?
Bill Gates.
Nice.
Yeah.
What is the worst fashion trend that you've ever followed?
I have tried a piece of cloth called lungi, which is basically like you just wrap around the lower part of your body without, there's no shorts.
We'll have to get photo evidence of this.
Absolutely. I'll send you a video of the dance. There's something called lungi dance with music. So I'll share that. It's fun.
How do you spell it?
LUNGI.
Okay, we're looking this up right after we wrap.
Yeah. You can Google lungi dance, LUNGI dance, and you'll find it.
Awesome.
Okay. And the last question: what was your dream job as a kid?
To be a ticket collector on a train. So
nice.
I could travel all around the country.
Yeah, cool.
For free.
Nice.
Cool. Good answer. Awesome. Well, that is a wrap on the episode. I wanted to thank you guys again for joining us. You've been both fantastic guests. Thanks for sharing your knowledge in the clinical research and trial space. And of course, we're rooting for you all to continue advancing in the space that you're working in and moving the industry forward. So thanks for joining us on the pod.
Thank you both for having us.
Great questions.
Appreciate it. Thank you all.